Welcome, Sens Talk.
He scores! He bats it in! Tim Stutzler wins it for Ottawa! Triple Grant is going to put the finishing touches on an Ottawa win. See you later. Go Sens, go!
Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brendan Plant, and I am your host. In today's video, I'm going to take a look at 5 different things your Ottawa Senators should do this summer. So, steady Steve Staios, if you're watching this video for whatever reason, that makes me a little uneasy that you're watching, to be honest with you. All jokes aside, if you are watching, here are 5 things I want you and the Ottawa Senators organization to do this summer. There's a lot to do, and yes, look, I wish the Ottawa Senators were still playing. Don't get me wrong. I wish the Senators were still competing for Lord Stanley Cup. We'll say that for next year, I guess. But that does not mean there's nothing to talk about. No, in fact, there is a lot to talk about. So in today's video, as I just said, we're going to take a look at 5 different things the Ottawa Senators have to do this summer, in my opinion. But instead of, spending an hour deep diving on every single topic, like Brock Besser, for example, should Ottawa, potentially acquire a guy like that in free agency? I'm going to do more so of a general preview or overview of what I want the Ottawa Senators to do this summer. And it's going to be more like an appetizer, right? You're going to get little bits of what I want the Sens to do. And then in the near future, like on Wednesday, for example, I'm going to literally, from one of the topics I'm going to discuss in this video, deep dive into it. I'm going to take a much deeper, more in-depth look. I'm going to spend an entire video on that topic alone. So basically, back to the main point, this is a bit of an appetizer. You're going to kind of get a taste of what I want the Sens to do. And then the videos coming up after this, in the coming weeks, it's going to take a deeper dive into each of these topics. So again, stay tuned for those great videos coming up here at youtube.com/SensTalk. Lot to talk about. You got free agent targets, you got extensions, you got potentially some draft talk, of course. We'll talk about that in this video. Goaltending, so much. So our name here is Sens Talk, and there's a lot of Sens stuff to talk about. So I guess it's fitting our name is Sens Talk. Again, 24/7, 365. We do not stop here at Sens Talk, baby. So yeah, that's enough of me rambling. You get the idea. Let's jump into the video. But before we do, I just want to say thank you to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk. As Sens Talk is proudly presented by Dylan Puckniak, Ottawa's exclusive realtor with Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment. Providing a bilingual real estate service that serves the Ottawa-Gatineau community, Dylan Puckniak is also specialized in supporting professional athletes that come and go in our city, providing service that takes care of the people at the highest level. For realtor experience that puts you and your needs first, visit DylanPuckniakTalkKW.com. That is DylanPuckniak.KW.com to find out more today. Again, thank you to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk. Shout out to them. They help us keep the lights on and let us do our thing. So let's get into it. Here are 5 things the Ottawa Senators, in my opinion, have to do this summer. Here's number 1. The Senators need to bring in a scoring winger for the top 6. Oh my goodness! What a shocking revelation! Wow, Brandon, you're a genius. Who would have thought that? I know, I already hear the comments. I know it's pretty cliche, but it is, in my opinion, the most pressing need for the Ottawa Senators right now for a multitude of reasons. First, Claude Giroux, God bless him, first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. We got to get this guy a Stanley Cup. We got to get this guy signed, by the way, which we'll talk about later. But he's not getting any younger. He's not getting any faster. We need a guy that can step in for where Claude Giroux has been the last 3 years. So we need a guy there. It could be a winger. It could be a center that shifts to the wing. I'm never against bringing in another guy that can win faceoffs. But regardless, we need to bring in scoring help. This year in the National Hockey League, Ottawa was 30th in 5-on-5 scoring. That's just not going to cut it. That is not going to cut it. I believe that Allmark and our defense can hold up again next year. And I think for sure we should make the playoffs next year. At the very least, I expect more. Not just the playoffs. I expect more than just the playoffs. But the Ottawa Senators, to get to that point, are going to need to score more. They're going to struggle to get to that point if they don't score more. Now again, Stützle and Tkachuk, they had less points this year than last year. That will not happen next year. They're going to bounce back. There's a bunch of reasons why they dropped off. Tkachuk missed time. Stützle was dealing with some injury troubles there. So no reason to think they won't bounce back. But again, you can't just have these guys leading the charge. You need to have other guys around them that can also contribute. So with $18 million in cap space, you got to do it. And I don't know if it's through a trade. and the cap space certainly helps. It makes it a little easier, of course. Or through free agency with a Brock Besser or a Nikolai Ehlers. Ehlers, by the way, we'll talk about it in the future. I don't think the Jets are going to let this guy go. They got cap space themselves, but again, I mean, this guy, in the last game of the Jets season, was 8th on the Jets for ice time. I don't know about you. That would piss me off if I was Nikolai Ehlers, who was fantastic, as usual, in the playoffs for them. And, he has struggled at times in the playoffs, but this playoffs, he's been fantastic. And he's been a very, very consistent player for the Jets. So a guy like that, Brad Marchand, potentially, I would love that rat coming into Ottawa. Now, I don't know if he could be a top 6 guy, but just as an idea, Sam Bennett. I know he's a center. I would be all over that, though. Holy cow, imagine Sam Bennett on this team. But that's kind of what I'm looking at, right? We need to bring in a guy that can bring in some offense, some speed, and most of all, can really help that 5-on-5 scoring. Again, when you're in the bottom 3 in the league for 5-on-5 scoring, that's just not going to cut it. That's just not going to cut it if you want to be more than just a middle-of-the-pack fringe playoff team, right? So that's my number one thing the Ottawa Senators need to address. Number 2, they need to bring in some sandpaper for the blue line. We need basically a right-handed version of Tyler Kleven. The left side is set up very good for next year and for the years to come. Sanderson, Chabot, Kleven. Very happy with that. I think every team in the National Hockey League would be thrilled to have a left side like that. The right side, it's a little murky right now. You got Jakubchuk in the wings. Where does he end up next year? Is he in Belleville to start and throughout the year? Which would make sense considering guys like Chabot and Carlson. That happened for them too. He needs to develop a bit more. But you never know. He had a great camp this year. No reason to think he can't have a great camp next year, right? So we'll see what happens with that. But then you have Jensen. Will he need surgery? We have to wait and see. He was dealing with a real nasty injury down the stretch. Artem Zub, who I love, could potentially be a trade chip, according to Bruce Garriock of Post Media. So, when you put all that together, the right side is far less clear than the left side. The only thing clear, ironically, about the right side is the third pairing, Nicholas Vanampalo. He was extended. He will be there on the third pairing with Kleven. So for the first time, the Ottawa Senators, again, I don't think. Look, right now they're still good to go with Zub, Jensen, Vanampalo, Jakubchuk. You're more than fine there. More than fine. I have no issue running that back. But there's no guarantee they do. We are already hearing again with Zub. Jensen, we don't even know if he's going to be back. So you got to bring in a guy like a Tyler Kleven for the right side. And regardless of, we're fine with Jensen and Zub. And I love Zub. And that's why I'm wearing this ad as much as possible. He might get dealt, right? So on that note, again, I love Jensen. I love Zub. But we do need more of a physical type of guy on that right side as well. We saw it in the playoffs this year, just in that second round between Florida and Toronto. And holy cow, what a game 7 that was, Toronto. Holy cow. Same old Leafs. Nature is healing. We'll just leave it at that, though. But if you don't have killers in the back end, you're not going to go far in the playoffs. So a sandpaper right-handed defenseman would be great to have, preferably in that top 4. Because imagine, Chabot with a physical, gritty guy like that, or even Sanderson. I mean, I love it. So I'd be all over that. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below about that. That's been a bit of a controversial point because, again, people are like, oh, for sure, I want a right-handed defenseman. But then you realize you have to trade Jensen or Zub, and then people are less excited about that. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below about that. Now, before we continue, I want to say thank you to The Bunker for sponsoring Sens Talk. Sens Talk is brought to you by The Bunker, Ottawa's premier golf simulator bar. Whether you're working on your game or just looking for a fun outing with friends, The Bunker offers a welcoming atmosphere, knowledgeable staff, great drinks, and a top-tier golfing experience. Make sure to visit one of their 2 locations, either in the heart of the Glebe or on the East End, just off the Anderson Road exit. Book your tee time today at golfbunker.ca. Okay, so here is number 3. Number 3. And this one gets a little bit murky because there's so much involved in this. When I spoke to Dean Brown the other day, by the way, shout out to Dean Brown for joining for the 3rd time on Sens Talk. Make sure to check out that great interview. Literally 90 minutes of unfiltered, unstoppable talk with the legendary voice of the Ottawa Senators, Dean Brown. Make sure to check that out. But we spoke about it in that interview, and I'll say it here again. The Ottawa Senators, half the NHL contracts on the roster right now are basically up as UFAs, okay? Now, the key guys, of course, are Claude Giroux. Claude Giroux needs to be extended, and we're going to talk about that later this week. But Claude Giroux, he needs to be an Ottawa Senator when he retires. He means so much more to this team than just what he brings on the ice. Just off the ice, the guys love him, and losing him would be a catastrophic loss, in my opinion, to the Ottawa Senators and that locker room. Again, I don't think it would be drastic in terms of we would miss the playoffs, but I do think it would hurt the morale of that locker room, so you really never know. You don't want to mess with something when it's working, right? That locker room, there's something working with that. Dean Brown, when I spoke to him the other day, literally said that this locker room is the tightest locker room he's ever seen since he's been covering the Ottawa Senators. 30 plus years. I don't know about you. When the guys keep on saying that Claude Giroux is like a father to them, like a brother, like a core piece, like best friend, right? You don't want to mess that up. You don't want to lose that. You need to keep that. So Giroux needs to be extended, but also guys like Fabian Zetterlund. Now, Zetterlund and Clevin, a little bit easier, RFAs, right? So they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to be qualified. I don't see why they wouldn't. Offer sheet, potentially. I don't see it happening. I think if, for whatever reason, offer sheet was given to a Zetterlund or Clevin, the Ottawa Senators would match. It is a possibility for Clevin, maybe. He had a great playoff. But I do think the Ottawa Senators would match. But also I do think, and I've spoken to people, I won't give out names, I've spoken to people that are around the Clevin family, and I wouldn't be worried about extending him for 2-3 years. And I'll just leave it at that. So I don't think it'll even get to that point. I think they extend him on a bridge-year deal. I know there's mutual interest there. So Clevin, I could see it, but I don't think it happens, of course. And Zetterlund, I think they disqualify him and bring him back. I don't think he was a what do you want to call it, a rental type piece. They clearly brought him in to be part of this team for next year as well. And, I certainly want that to be the case. But you want to get those kind of things done before the draft so you know your situation by the draft. We'll talk about this later, or I guess now, but, are you trading that first round pick for potentially, like I said already, like a top 6 winger or a right-handed defenseman or whatever? Are you trading that first round pick? If you are, you kind of need to know who's signed, who's not, right? So if you want to make decisions at the draft, you kind of need to know what's going on with your roster before that happens. So, again, easier said than done. The draft is approaching in just over a month now, but again, steady Steve Staios. You got to have faith in him, and, when you have 2 RFAs, you have control there, and then with Giroux, that's when I really just want to get done quickly, because the longer it takes, I'm not going to get worried, so to speak, but also you don't want to have the noise around the organization with something like this. You just want to get that done. You don't want to have any risk of losing him. Just get it done. On the note of Giroux again, Bruce Garriock has said that the Sens offered potentially, or looking anyways potentially, according to league executives, at a 1-year, $3 to $4 million deal, potentially 2 years at that rate. More than happy with that. It's half the salary he's making right now. He's making 6.5, so this would drop to 3 to 4. So it'd be half, of course, and that's more than fair. Still leaves roughly $15 million of cap space for the Sens to play with. So that's a team-friendly deal. The fact we're already hearing number figures and whatnot is very encouraging. Garriock also said, by the way, that Giroux's agent and the Sens organization will meet at the scouting combine in early June in Buffalo. So we might see an extension here in the next couple of weeks. We shall wait and see. But on that note, you also have other guys you have to figure out with, like Nick Cousins, Matthew Highmore, Adam Gaudette, and Dennis Gilbert. So, again, I don't really see any of those guys coming back. Maybe Nick Cousins, but Highmore, maybe Highmore as well, but these are fringe guys. Cousins, I think, is a guy that you can bring back because you need that sandpaper on the bottom line. I think, I was a little disappointed with this playoff, but I'd love to bring him back in 1 year. Gaudette, I think, has priced himself out of Ottawa, and I think he's going to get a well-deserved payday somewhere else. And then Gilbert, I don't know. I just don't think there's any space for him at this point. And then you also have AHL guys like Angus Crookshank, who I love, friend of the show. I really do hope they bring him back. I think he has a lot of talent. But if he does sign somewhere else, it would be purely because he wants more of an opportunity, and he didn't really get an opportunity here in the big club this season. Cole Reinhardt's another guy who's been a fringe NHLer who's bounced up and down between Ottawa and Belleville. And Wyatt Bongiovanni is another guy, a Belleville Senator legend, a key player for them. That's somebody that you definitely want to be brought back if you're a Belleville fan. Those are UFAs as well. So a lot to unpack there. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Who would you sign or extend, and for how much? Let me know down below. Now, number 4, you got to figure out the tandem. You got to figure out who's going to be backing up Linus Ullmark. Is Anton Forsberg returning? Is it Levi Merilainen time? Are the Ottawa Senators going to, again, let Levi Merilainen battle with potentially a veteran third stringer that's brought in through free agency? You got to figure that out. You really do. So, in my opinion, I say, it depends what Forsberg wants. I think he can get a 2-3 year deal somewhere else for $2 million at least, and Ottawa just cannot afford that right now. And you can have a guy like Levi Merilainen at league minimum, potentially even do better than what Forsberg can provide. So I think Forsberg, again, will do what's best for his family, obviously. And I just don't see him coming back purely because I don't think they're going to give him the type of contract he's looking for. And again, Levi Merilainen, I would not be against him getting more time in Belleville. Doesn't hurt. He's a young goaltender, literally my age, right? He's a young guy. So I'm not against him getting more time in Belleville. But also, he's proven everything he needs to prove in Belleville. He's proven he can play in the National Hockey League as well. And he's certainly deserving of a chance, or a look, I should say, at the training camp in September. But if that is the case, you still have to bring in a veteran third stringer, like an Alex Leon situation or something like that. I think somebody on Twitter mentioned that. That's why he comes to mind. I think Alex Adams, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to him from Sportsnet. Absolute beauty. But again, you can't just have Levi Merilainen and no disrespect to Matt Sogard, but you need to have a veteran there as a buffer, because again, if you have Linus Ullmark, who has injury history, and then Levi Merilainen and Sogard, well, you have little to no NHL experience outside of Ullmark. That is not a recipe for success. And that is why, if the Senators do bring back Forsberg on a 1-year deal, not against it at all. Because again, Merilainen can still marinate and continue to dominate there in Belleville. And he can still come up to Ottawa if necessary. And again, you can never have enough depth at your goaltending situation. It really all just depends on what Forsberg is looking for. Again, 1 year at like $2 million, I think we could probably swing that. But anything more than a year, I'm out. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below about that. It is certainly a very heated and contested debate right now. I think most people want Levi Merilainen to be the guy, but I think there's also a bit of the hesitancy, like I brought up, where it's like, oh, well, you got to bring in somebody else, because again, Ullmark has that injury history, and you don't want to have the season on the shoulders of a goaltender with barely a handful of games of NHL experience, right? Again, I love Levi Merilainen. I'm very high on him, but I'm just trying to be realistic here. Now, before we get to number 5 on the list, I want to say Sens Talk is brought to you by Keysmoke Meats, the best smoked meat in the Ottawa area. During a process that takes over 150 hours while using the highest grade beef, Keysmoke Meat smokes their meat on top of a mix of Southern American charcoal and keeps signature flavored wood chips, leaving you with a savory Montreal-inspired smoked meat. But the best part, getting it is so easy. Just go to keysmokemeats.com, find the smoked meat package you're looking for, press order, and boom! Within days, you'll have freshly made, locally produced smoked meat dropped off right at your doorstep. So check out keysmokemeats.com for the best tasting smoked meat experience in Ottawa today. And at number 5, design new special teams. Please, please, please. I am begging you. The power play at times looked great, at times looked awful. The Senators' power play is one of the most consistently inconsistent things I've ever seen. And at times it's awesome, at times it's pitiful. I don't want either of those ups and downs. I want consistency. And the thing I really want is to see that one-timer utilized. Why is Timmy not ripping it? Did you see that shot in the power play in the playoffs? Holy cow! Top shelf snipe past Stolars? I want to see that every game. Why are we not seeing more one-timers? And then on the penalty kill, oh my goodness, the penalty kill. Below 70% in the playoffs. Bottom 12 in the league in the regular season. The Ottawa Senators, and through free agency, they can bring in some guys as well to help out with this. Like the diamond formation is just absolutely getting exposed on a nightly basis. It is ridiculous how often a guy just walks in with free real estate right out front, mere feet away from your goaltender. Just cannot happen. So I know it's easier said than done. And that's why the NHL coaches and the coaching staff are in the National Hockey League, and I'm not. They got to figure it out. They know they need to do better. Travis Green said as much in his end-of-season availability. So that is the 5th thing. It's a minor thing, as a fan to talk about, because at the end of the day, we're not on the ice. We don't know the team as well as the coaching staff does. But it's very obvious to everyone the power play needs to find some more consistency. Again, in the regular season, it looked pretty good, but it did have moments where it trailed off. I just need to see more consistency there. And it goes without saying on the penalty kill, just need a complete reversal of what we saw last year. You're just not helping yourselves in any way to win games when your penalty kill is, again, in the pack of non-playoff teams. So that definitely needs to be addressed. Now with that, those were my 5. Let me know your 5 down below in the comment section. I'll be reading and responding as usual. And with that, I'll see you in the next couple of days to talk about the Claude Giroux potential contract extension and overall his contract situation. Now with that, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all very, very soon. Go Sens, go.